What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Edge DFS. Talking showdown, Colts versus 49ers, Sunday Night Football. Ellie, what's up, man? How you doing? What's going on with you?
Doing pretty good, man. Enjoyed watching the Suns beat the shit out of the Lakers last night.
Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah, you can never overestimate how fun it is to beat LA teams, especially if you're from the Valley.
Brings me a lot of joy. I will say that.
Yeah, you see Dwight Howard and AD get into it on the sideline, man? Yeah. I'm all for it.
So we definitely got that Browns game wrong. I mean, I just figured, look, everybody's injured. But dude, their offensive line is amazing. Are the Cardinals that good? Or was it just a bad game for the Browns? I mean, I don't know what to think of this because they absolutely dominated the Browns.
Us being Arizona sports fans, there's no reason for us to get our hopes too high and think that the Cardinals are that good. But you got to start thinking about it. I was not expecting that, and I think our bias for being a Cardinals fans actually impacted our ability to project that game.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I don't think anybody really had Ernest Johnson popping off for 150 and 2 touchdowns.
He did great.
Did he have 2 or 1? Either way,
I thought he had 2. I mean, he was the optimal captain by far.
Yeah, he broke that shit. And to be fair, I don't think, I don't think we were all that wrong at guessing the run game, but or guessing to fade the run game. But we had a game script and we stuck to it, and we talk about that pretty consistently about having a game script of what you think is going to happen and choosing and building your players based on that. The game script didn't happen, obviously, and we are where we are, and we live to fight another day.
I would rather go all in on a game script or a couple that I think can happen than just be all over the place and just cover my bases, because you're just going to have a bunch of average lineups. So you just you lose it all, or you have a good night. I mean, that's kind of how it is with Showdown. I mean, with NBA, man, it's so refreshing to not have to worry about losing everything every single time you play. Because with Showdown, with NFL Showdown, it gets a little exhausting. It really does.
Well, what's nice about NBA is it's a lot easier to build cash lineups and hedge with Joe.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna quietly, or not so quietly, plug me a little bit, but it's day 3 in NBA, got a 393 lineup. Unfortunately, it was in a lower stakes contest, but it ended up taking it home. But I mean, that's the point, right? I'm not max entering these $15 contests. I'm playing the smaller ones so that I can play consistently. But we're doing okay on NBA. I'm really excited for this one.
All right. Well, before we jump into football here, I think we should do a live show here soon. Maybe next week or something. We should do an NBA live up to the late night hammer for Showdown.
Yeah, I'm down. I think we can actually steal that name too. NBA Live, EA Sports lost rights on that NBA a long time ago. So.
Let us know in the comments if you guys want to see that. If you guys are into NBA Showdown, we did a lot of shows last year after football ended. We're gonna pick up here maybe in a week or two. We'll see what happens. All right, so let's get into this game. So obviously, I mean, look, I'm not a huge fan of this matchup. It seems kind of
You're not excited for this?
No, I'm not, to be honest. San Francisco, look, this is going to be a weather game. It looks like there's probably about 100% chance of rain. I think the West Coast is going to get hit by some serious storms or something. I have to look into it, but I kind of heard that. And this game is no different. They're going to get hit pretty bad from what I can tell. So that might be something to keep in mind. We've seen a couple rain games that have affected the past game this year. So, maybe you get a little bit of a boost to the run game this week. We saw 3 running backs in the optimal in that last game. I mean, I don't think that's a stretch for this game. I think you can go multiple running backs because there's a lot of good running backs in this game. I mean, there's 3 solid running backs on each team that could probably be a starter somewhere in the NFL. So, minus 201 for San Francisco. They're at home, and that's wrong. Yeah, that's wrong. That implied total, that's my bad. It should be flipped around. It should be 23 for San Francisco. Oops. Anyways, you get the point. Over under 43. It's a low total. I'm sure Vegas has put the rain into their their math when it comes to this game. And we'll look at some props here in a second just to kind of get an idea. But look at this ownership, dude. Do you think San Francisco warrants that big of a ownership gap?
I mean, not really. So this is going to be an interesting game to start switching up the lineup build. So normally I go 2-4 or 4-2. That's my general roster construction. I'll probably end up closer to 3-3 in this one, or maybe even 4-2 with more Colts. And it's going to be because of that. Everyone just hops on, Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan's dick when it comes to Showdown. I get that he's an offensive mastermind, but he hasn't really done all that much this season. So I definitely think that there's going to be some leverage that we can get just jamming in some Colts in there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's look at injuries real quick. We've got a handful of injuries to talk about. So obviously Garoppolo's back. Trey Lance got injured. They're on a bye, by the way. So 49ers are coming off a bye. They're still a little bit banged up, as usual. I mean, when have the 49ers not been banged up over the last few seasons?
Yeah.
George Kittle is out still. JaMychal Hasty is coming back. So they have 3 solid running backs that are going to be playing in this game. When it comes to the Colts, T.Y. Hilton came back, had a pretty good game last week, which is encouraging. I'm glad to see him. It's very sad to see a guy like that kind of wither away and be injured, but it was nice to see him have a pretty good game. But he's out again, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I think he just comes back to fuck up the Texans and then just goes back into retirement or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever they play the Texans, he just plays, and then the rest of the year he's out.
Yeah.
Paris Campbell had a nice long touchdown in that game, and then I think immediately afterwards he's out. He was out in that game, so he's out indefinitely. So that opens up a little bit of other options for the Colts that we'll talk about here in a second. Really no one else to talk about. Just kind of the biggest ones that jump out are obviously T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell, and then we know about George Kittle. So I don't think there's really anything else to talk about. Let's jump over into some props here. I want to look at, because we're looking at a game where, especially with the quarterbacks, you got Garoppolo and Wentz. First of all, Garoppolo's at 10.6K. Wentz is at 10.2K. I'm having a hard time figuring out what I want to do with the quarterbacks in this game. Wentz seems like the weaker option, but Garoppolo can also be that guy. What are you seeing props-wise, over-under on their passing totals for these guys?
So I'm using DK Sportsbook, so obviously, it could be different than other props that sites are using. But Carson Wentz, they got him at 199.5. I think he can easily. Yeah, I think he can easily hit the over here. The one thing that we need to keep in mind is we need to pay attention to the Indy offensive line. I think if we want to call back to the Thursday night game, that's something that we're going to need to pay more attention to, is these offensive lines determine what's going to happen in the game. So if everyone's healthy, I definitely think Carson Wentz over 200 yards is easy money, just from a prop betting standpoint. But from a DFS perspective, that just makes me love him anymore. Even
if it's raining cats and dogs, man, I still think he's an NFL quarterback. He can get over 200 yards passing.
Right. I mean, he played in Philly, bro. Like, I don't think Carson Wentz is, I don't even have a good comparison for him. Like, he's just some random guy who can be good sometimes, but is usually hurt. So, And anyway, so I definitely think that he has an opportunity, and he can do fine in the weather. He played in Philly for long enough, so he's played through all the different weather. And then you got Jimmy G at 202, which is really interesting as well. I'm kind of torn on that one though, because Jimmy G is going to be dependent on what Deebo Samuel does.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, if Deebo leads in yak easily.
Yeah.
So I mean, if he doesn't have those yards after catch, I mean, what does that leave Jimmy at?
Right? Yeah. You're right. I think Vegas is compensating quite a bit for the rain. There's no way. There's no other way. I mean, these defenses aren't really that great. They're really nothing to write home about. It seems like the pass defense for the Colts isn't ranking out very good this year, but the rush defense is ranking out a little bit better. It's too early to know. What are we, week 7? It's too early to know at this point. All right, well, let's get into the breakdown here. We're going to try to keep the show under our 40 minutes here. Let's get through this. All right. So we're gonna go over to Fancy Cruncher here. So, like I said earlier, Garoppolo 10.6, Wentz 10.2. So look, Wentz, there's nothing really to write home about here. I mean, he had one game against Baltimore, and that was a pretty impressive game. Even against Houston, they absolutely crushed Houston, well, mainly in the second half. That game going into the third quarter was a 10-7 game against Houston, and then they kind of ran it up in the fourth quarter. But you know, even at scoring 31 points, Carson Wentz only had 17 fantasy points, and he only had 20 attempts. So I think the rush offense for the Colts is pretty damn good. And, you know, there's a situation where the Colts can win this game and still Wentz might only have 25 attempts. So I don't know, man. This is one of these things where it's a 42 total. It's kind of it can go either way. We want to jam in the quarterbacks because they're going to touch the ball the most. They have the highest probability of actually scoring, being involved in any of those points that are scored. But at the same time, if you get one or two rushing touchdowns that the quarterbacks have nothing to do with, they might not make the optimal. So I don't know where to go here. I'm a little torn. They're priced relatively well. Do we jam both of these guys in like we usually do? It seems like when we're crunching, they're automatically jammed in. What are your thoughts here?
I call me crazy, bro, but I think I like Wentz a lot, and I think I'm leaning. You know, I think when we get to the fades, you're gonna see that I didn't have much for today. But the more that I think about it, I might be willing to fade Jimmy G a little bit here.
Yeah.
I think you can get all of the offense with Elijah Mitchell and probably Deebo Samuel. Mm-hmm. And we were talking earlier, I'm leaning towards 3-3 or 4-2 with Colts. So, you know, if that's the case, then I'm going to have a lot of Carson Wentz and a bunch of his, probably Jonathan Taylor and some pass catchers. So, I don't know, man. I think we might be in Jimmy G fade territory. I just like Carson Wentz a little bit more. And please don't ever repeat that because I don't think I will myself.
I hear you, man. I mean, look, Jimmy G has not had a game over 20 fantasy points his entire season.
Yeah, and this is a different defense. The Colts pass defense isn't good, but they have a better defensive line. They have a better front seven. So I think that could impact things. And not having George Kittle, who the fuck is the second receiver on San Francisco? You have Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, dude, he hasn't done anything this entire year.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, he was the guy coming into this year. Everyone was super excited about him.
Yeah, he was all over best ball, man.
So, look, Garoppolo, nothing to write home about. I think these are both like high floor quarterbacks. You're not going to see like a 10-point. I mean, maybe you could. I'm comfortable in cash getting both of these guys in. I don't think that's any of a bold take. But when it comes to tournaments, maybe we fade one of them in every lineup.
Yeah.
I think that might be the way to go. We got to wait till we see ownership. If both of these guys are coming in under 50% total owned, then maybe we can kind of like get a little bit of leverage by playing two quarterbacks, and it makes it easier for us to build. We don't one less position we have to worry about figuring out. And I haven't messed with building a lineup. I'm going to build a lineup live with you for the first time. It doesn't seem to me like the salaries are going to be too crazy because I think you can go a little bit lower on the captain scale here and still figure things out. So let's move over to running backs here. So who do you want to start with?
Let's start with Indy.
All right. So this is a little bit more clear cut. You got Jonathan Taylor at 11K, Nyheim Hines 5,600, and Marlon Mack at 1,400. Now Marlon Mack to me, look, let's not talk about Jonathan Taylor too much. I think you play Jonathan Taylor in almost every lineup. A few weeks ago, I think against Baltimore, I was choosing to fade him just because of the narrative against Baltimore and, whatever that was. I think that was the game where he caught that touchdown pass on the first play or whatever.
Yeah,
he's getting involved in the pass game. So look, the only reason why Nyheim Hines and Marlon Mack are most likely going to get some run is on third down, but Jonathan Taylor's getting those pass opportunities out of the backfield. He's getting everything. This guy's a stud. I love him. Spoiler alert, I'm going to have a lot of him at captain because he's just not going to be that high owned in captain, which is insane. I mean, look at these last three games.
Yeah.
Absolutely dominating. Even a game where he only had 53 rush yards, he ended up with 116 receiving yards, mostly because of that 75-yard pass. But
even if you take that away, dude, that's still 13 and a half points. That puts him at 18.
Yeah, 18.
Which is still required for a showdown slate.
Still gets there. So 11K, I love him, and I think because he's that expensive, people aren't going to be as likely to play him a captain. They're going to go to the San Francisco side. I think he's a great captain option. I think you could sprinkle in a little Hines and Marlon Mack. I'm not going to go too heavy. If I had to choose between both of these guys, I'd go with Marlon Mack because Marlon Mack actually had more attempts than Hines last week, I believe. Let's look at that. Actually.
And he's $1,400.
And he's $1,400. You can't go wrong. This guy gets you 10 fantasy points. You're going to be loving it, especially with a low total like this. So last week he had 5 attempts. I mean, he's been this guy at the beginning of the year. You and I have been talking about. You're near Indianapolis. I was trying to get your. I drafted him in best ball because there just wasn't a whole lot of information coming out. Last year at the beginning of the year, he was the starting running back. He was the man.
Yeah.
Got injured. Jonathan Taylor came on big. There was rumors of him being traded or released at the beginning of this year, and he still could get traded. Maybe they're trying to play him to get that trade capital up. I don't know what it is, but he had 10 carries, 5 carries, 5 carries. Nothing really to write home about. When it comes to targets, he's getting 2 or so. Nothing to write home about. But at $1,600 or $1,400, man, you got to consider playing him. Nyheim Hines only had 4 rushes. I think if you could fade any of these guys, I actually am fully comfortable having 0 Nyheim Hines. Now he can get a random touchdown for sure, but at 5,600, I feel like you got to have more than just a touchdown in a game like this for a $5,600 guy.
He needs to be on the field like 50% of the time.
Yeah, and look, in a heavy rain game, I'm not afraid to play multiple running backs, even from the same team. I'm not afraid to do it. So you got to get Jonathan Taylor in almost every one of your lineups. I mean, I'm going to go heavy on him. I don't care if he has a bad game. I just don't care. Like, I'll move on because I think the leverage is there, and I think he's a guy that will get you touchdowns. So thoughts on Taylor?
Play him as much as you can.
And you agree with Marlon Mack over Nyheim Hines at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I think you can. Yeah, you can run him in the same lineup. I mean, Marlon Mack at this point could be our punt at 1,400. And I know we're still early in the running backs, but if we don't find any other value, I'm going to be more than comfortable playing him.
All right, let's move over to the other side here. Where are we at here? Sorry, 1 second. San Francisco. So we got 3 guys here. So what was that Elijah Mitchell prop, the rushing over-under?
They had him at 60.5.
60.5?
Yeah.
Okay. And what was Jonathan Taylor?
68.5.
So obviously San Francisco is favored, so their running attack is probably going to get a little bit of a boost. But with Elijah Mitchell at 8,200, he's about $3,000 cheaper than Jonathan Taylor. I don't mind Elijah Mitchell at all, but one thing that scares me is, you can get a JaMychal Hasty goal line carry and steal a touchdown from Mitchell. You can get a Trey Sermon goal line carry. And look, these guys aren't necessarily healthy. Every one of these guys has been pretty much in and out of being injured. So at any given point, I'm not projecting an injury, but you got to think about this. Any given point, any of these guys can go to the tent. They can walk out on the field within the first 5 minutes and be in the tent. So I'm more likely to be not under the field, but I'm not going to go as heavy as I would with Jonathan Taylor. I'm a little bit more scared. I'm a little bit more scared to play heavy Elijah Mitchell, but I don't hate it. So any chance to play a Trey Sermon or JaMychal Hasty, or do you just got to stick with Mitchell here?
I don't mind JaMychal Hasty or Trey Sermon, and honestly, I might even prefer them over Elijah Mitchell a little bit. 8,200 is a little bit expensive for me, especially when you're going to have the split carries between Hasty and Sermon. Eli Mitchell might be their guy. He might be their guy, but it's also Kyle Shanahan. He could very easily not be the guy. They switch everybody up every week. We see it all the time. I'm not going to get too heavy on this backfield. And to be fair, I think it's just easier to just limit your exposure here and focus on the big time playmakers from the other team. Now, with that said, if I'm fading Jimmy G, I'm grabbing Eli and I'm grabbing Debo. So that's going to be really where I target him, is when I'm not playing Jimmy G.
And look, I mean, Trey Sermon is a high draft pick. They weren't very high on it. He wasn't, surprisingly, Elijah Mitchell was the guy to start the year, besides, obviously, Raheem Mostert. Once Mostert went down, Elijah Mitchell was the guy, and we were kind of surprised to not see Trey Sermon in there. And then you see JaMychal Hasty, who had a big game. I mean, every one of these guys has had pretty big games so far this year. Yeah. So what scares me is who knows what who knows what their game plan is going into this. I don't know. And if they're going to run the ball quite a bit in this game, I'm actually pretty scared to commit to these guys heavily. I mean, even Kyle Juszczyk, which is at 4,000. I'm not playing much of him because he's usually like an $800 guy that I love playing $800 Kyle Juszczyk, and the highest he's been was 2,800. And at 2,800, maybe he paid off with 8 fantasy points, probably not. But I'm not playing him at 4,000. You got to get a heavy workload from him, and you're just not going to see a heavy workload. He'll probably get you 4 or 5 reception. Maybe he gets you a touchdown. I just don't love him at that price tag. So you got to go Elijah Mitchell here. Are you interested in Sermon and Hasty or Juszczyk? Where do you go?
Sure. I don't mind any of them. I'm just not going to be playing a bunch of the running backs here. I think you're going to have a lot better value playing the passing game from San Francisco anyways. And I want to save my salary for the other side of the ball.
And look, Elijah Mitchell last week with Trey Sermon got 66% of the snaps. That was without Hasty, obviously, but clearly Elijah Mitchell's the guy. Yeah. He's going to be the guy, and if there's any other, it would be like a goal line stolen touchdown or a couple of passes out of the backfield that get these guys there. And that's the only reason. That
matters, though, especially for Elijah Mitchell. I mean, if he gets robbed of a goal line touchdown, he will not get there.
No, he won't.
And he hasn't this entire season except for week 1, and he had a touchdown.
All right, so let's move over to wide receivers here. So, San Francisco, I'm actually going to pare this down a bit here. Let's get rid of Richie James, River Craycraft. We don't want to talk about that.
Jawan Jennings isn't playing.
Jawan Jennings, well, look, this guy did have a touchdown week 2, but I'm probably not going to play him at $200. So, look, Deebo Samuel's at 9,600. That's a really good price for Deebo Samuel, especially considering that Jonathan Taylor on a team that's not favored on the road is at 11K. And he's only, he's $600 cheaper than some of these quarterbacks. So Deebo Samuel, 9,600. Man, I just don't know how he doesn't get there in this game. I mean, look, he does have some bad outputs. He has a 10-point fantasy game, but his floor is right around 15, 16 points, especially in a game like this, and especially with Jimmy G back. The passing game has definitely helped with Jimmy G. So you got to just go heavy on Deebo Samuel, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, he's the best player on the team, especially with Kittle being injured. He's the league leader in Yak, and he's going to get all the targets. So
yeah, I mean,
don't overthink it. Targets. Play Deebo. Yeah,
10, 12, 8, 9.
And look at those targets jack up as soon as Kittle goes down, right? I mean, ever since Kittle's been gone, his targets have been up over 9. So
he's the main target on this team. And just to give you, I mean, his projection is insane. It's like 6 or 7 points higher than the quarterbacks. So he's going to be super popular. He's going to be the highest owned captain. He might be Lamar ownership at captain this week. And I think there's some leverage there, especially in a game where it's heavy rain. Maybe he just doesn't get there. I think at captain I might kind of go under the field, or I might fade him at captain and lock him into the flex for most of my lineups this week. That's just maybe just a strategy because he's going to be around 30% owned in the captain. To me,
yeah,
I don't know, man. Like I would rather I'm comfortable putting Lamar at captain in every one of my lineups. Am I comfortable putting Deebo Samuel? I mean, he's a great player, but he's not Lamar Jackson. He doesn't touch the ball every time. He's reliant on other people to get him the ball. So it's one of these things to think about and possibly fade him at captain. But in cash, he'll be my captain for sure, or single entry. So Brandon Ayuk, we know what this guy can do. He's at 7K. He's been getting involved a little bit more. He did have a touchdown week 3, but overall disappointing. Very disappointing. Nothing really to write home about. I mean, look, the most targets he's gotten is 6. The most passing or receiving yards he's gotten is 37. So I don't love him, and at 7K, I don't really love him that much. In the past, I've been like, man, throw him in a captain because he's got that ceiling. I don't see it. Are you kind of in the same boat with Ayuk? I was high on him for a few weeks, and then he continued to let me down, and I'm kind of coming to my senses at this point.
Yeah, I have zero interest in playing Brandon Ayuk. That is my commentary.
Copy that. Mohamed Sanu, 2,400. Yeah. I think he's worth a shot at 2,400.
Absolutely.
He's the kind of guy that's not going to do anything too crazy for you, but I definitely can see him catching a touchdown in any given week, especially without George Kittle. He's sort of at the end of his career. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like maybe not in the NFL next year or the year after. He's winding down.
Is he the only veteran like skill player that they have on offense?
Oh, possibly. Besides Kittle.
if you actually, well, he's not playing though, right? Yeah. So like, I mean, what happens if Jimmy G starts to struggle a little bit? And let's not forget, Xavier Rhodes is going to be on Deebo Samuel. I know that he's not what he was 3 years ago, but he's still Xavier Rhodes. So what if, Brandon Ayuk's not getting involved? We see that, like, and at $7K, he's probably not going to pay off. 2,400, Mohamed Sanu. I definitely think there's opportunity for him to bust a touchdown open.
I think, honestly, Trent Sherfield at $200 could be your best punt option. Because when
was the last time he had receptions? It was when Jimmy G was starting.
Yeah.
Weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah. And, he had a touchdown week 1. For a guy that's $200 that has scored a touchdown already this year, you have to just think about him. Yep. If this dude scores you a touchdown in a 42 or 43 point total at $200, man, it's tempting to mess with him. Maybe Travis Benjamin here or there, Juwan Jennings here and there, maybe one lineup out of 80 or something like that or whatever. I'm comfortable maybe getting a couple, but Trent Sherfield at 200, I'm willing to take a shot in maybe 5 to 10% of my lineups. He's only going to be 1% owned, so he's going to be one of these guys that can break the slate. Right. And Sanu at under 15% owned at 2,400. I like him. I do.
Yeah, you don't even have to get crazy to play these guys, dude. You only need them in a couple lineups, and you have leverage on the field.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, exactly. If you play him in 3 lineups, you're going to have leverage already. So let's go over to the other side. If I can find him. Here we go. So, Michael Pittman, 8,800. Now, this is a little interesting to me. So, Michael Pittman is only $800 cheaper than Deebo Samuel. That's a misprice. Whether it's Deebo Samuel's price too low or Michael Pittman's price too high. Either way, I think that Michael Pittman there should be a couple $1,000 difference between him and Deebo. Yeah. Right? I mean, so I like Michael Pittman, obviously. Let's look at some of his past performances here. He does have a 20-point output. He does have a 23-point output. That 23-point game came against the Rams. He got 12, 8, 7, 3 targets. Now, that 3-target game came with T.Y. Hilton. So
it also came against a team that they probably were. I mean, weren't they leading most of the game?
They were leading the entire game.
How many attempts did he have on Sunday? So he had 20 passing attempts.
Yeah, 20.
And we all know that 90% of them go to the T.Y. Hilton when they're playing the Texans. So I honestly think you can throw away last week. I don't think that counts.
Yeah, and the week before against Baltimore, he did well. Yeah,
he had Marlon Humphrey, man. Yeah. Like, what are you expecting to do against one of the top 3 corners in the league?
So look, I think Pittman and Deebo in this together is a dangerous combo because they're priced pretty good. At least Deebo is priced low enough that you can justify getting another basically $9,000 receiver in there. So with Paris Campbell out, you got Zach Pascal at 6,200. He hasn't done anything really besides week 1. He had 2 touchdowns. Now he did have a touchdown in week 2 against the Rams. Well, look, he hasn't really done much since. So, but he's the number 2 guy. They're not passing to Mo Alley Cox except for in the red zone. I mean, he might get 2 or 3 targets in a game. They're going to go to Jonathan Taylor. They're going to go to Pittman. They're going to go to Pascal. So, if we think that this is a rush-heavy game, maybe we avoid Pascal a little bit. But I'm not scared at 6,200 to feather him in. He's going to be like 20-something% owned or less. So Coutier, any of these guys, I'm not really touching any of these other guys. I think it's Pittman, Pascal, and the tight ends. Those are the only guys you have to worry about, right?
Yeah, I agree. I like Zach Pascal a lot, especially with Ty and other dude being out.
Yeah.
And excuse me, if Kiki Kuti is active and does end up playing, I don't hate him at $200.
I think I think I got a notification saying he might be active. I don't know. Just check in with us on Discord, or I'm usually posting up until lock, posting on the YouTube comments, things that are going on. So check in with that, or hit us up on Twitter. Either way.
But he's just too explosive a player if he's active, given the amount of... They're down 2 wide receivers. So somebody's going to need to play in a 3 wide receiver set. And he is a great guy to have in the slot.
Look, he's gotten there before. I mean...
Yeah, we know he can. He's mini Will Fuller. Like, he just happens to be like a 4th or 5th string guy.
This guy jumps around the league, but he's kind of one of these guys you call in when you need help. Because he's solid enough to be an NFL player still. All right.
Well, I mean, do you have last year? Pull up last season's real quick.
Yeah,
his stats from last year.
So,
I mean, like
25-point game.
At $200, if he gets literally any one of these scores, I've got 9, 6, 22, 10, 15, 10, 15. At $200, he will break the slate.
Yeah.
So he's 100% in play to me.
Yeah.
Especially if he's active.
He's not obviously a rookie. He's not some guy we don't know about. We know what he's capable of. We know he's boom or bust. He's either going to get 0 catches or 7. Like, he's one of these guys. So keep an eye on Coutier. If he's active, he's technically like the 3rd option potentially. He could be the 3rd option.
I don't want to spend too much time on here. I didn't want to spend a bunch of time on these backup wide receivers, but quick comment: Michael Strahan, whatever his name is, Strachan, tooth gap. He's $200. He's supposed to be kind of like the big play guy, like what you would expect Kiki Kuti to be for what he was with Houston. But and I don't want to give away projections here, but what do you have for Ashton Dolan? Do you even have him in your?
Oh, you know what? I'm really sorry. We got to talk about Dolan. Thank God you brought that up, because he did have a few catches last week, and I actually do think he's the number 3 option now. Dolan's 600, and he's projected around 3 points. He's actually projected lower than Kiki Coutier, which could make him a huge sleeper option here.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to brush past these guys, but remember, they're down 2 wide receivers, and we're looking for somebody to play under 1,400 pretty much. And, you don't have to get crazy with these guys. They're each going to be 5 to 10%. Maybe Ashton a little bit more if people start to catch on to his projection. Because, by the way, RG has him for more than that.
Okay.
Got it. So, it's just something to keep in mind. But either way, I'm still prioritizing MPJ, Michael Pittman Jr., and then Zach Pascal.
Look, you guys aren't watching this show to hear us talk about how good Jonathan Taylor is. You know that. Right. You're here to hear us talk about these random ass dudes that can score a touchdown and break the slate for you. And I think that Coutier and Doolin are those guys. I'm glad you brought that up, because I completely blanked on him. He had 25% of the snaps last week. He ran 6 routes. So nothing to really write home about, but he's getting some opportunity, and at $600, man, that's all you can ask for. Okay, so we're going to go tight ends here. So Mo Alley Cox had another touchdown last week. He's at $5,200. I don't want to pay $5,200 for Mo Alley Cox. I never want to pay $5,200 for him. Jack Doyle at $1,000. Man, DraftKings, they're just messing with us, man. They're going to make me lose all my money playing Jack Doyle at $1,000. I mean, come on, man. Price them up for me, because I'm going to end up losing all my money again. Look, 13 fantasy points. 13 fantasy points in that infamous week 2 where everybody seemed to do well. Nothing since. Now, Mo Alley Cox, like I said, he had a touchdown, but only on 3 targets, 1 reception. He only got 9.8 fantasy points, and he was 5,400. So you see that red there. He didn't really hit value particularly. So I don't think I like Mo Alley Cox. I know he can get there. I know he can score a touchdown. His ceiling is pretty low. And at that price tag, I'd rather go with Doyle again. We just had this conversation. I hate it, right?
I mean, even then, dude, I'm not I'll probably be with the field at Mo Alley, and what I mean that if I'll probably have closer to 20% of them, right? I'll have enough of them to have a little bit of exposure, getting him in a couple builds that I like, but I'm not going to be prioritizing him in any manner. I like Jack Doyle again at 1K, but to be completely honest with you, we might be in a position to not have to play any of these guys, especially if we think that one of these under 1K wide receivers has any potential to do anything. That might be enough to give us the ability to just not have to sit in these weird ass pricing ranges with guys like Mo Alley Cox. Yeah. And even then, like I get Jack Doyle has touchdown upside, but Kiki Kuti at $200 if he's active, and Ashton Doolin at $600 if he's active. Yeah. That's still viable, and I almost kind of prefer that. And I understand it's only a $400 price difference, but we know that they're shorthanded at that position. Yeah. So, and now with that said, I mean, that could mean that the tight ends get a little bit of a boost. But again, you're going to have to run a three wide receiver set at some point. So I just prefer the wide receivers in this situation.
I agree. One thing to look at, though, the reason why I continually like Jack Doyle is he's on the field a lot more than Mo Alley Cox. And he runs basically the same amount of routes as Mo Alley Cox. He's just not getting targeted. And he's going to get targeted one of these weeks.
If he didn't look like Andrew Luck's like redneck cousin, like I guarantee you he'd get more love, right? He just looks like some random dude who picked up a football. But Jack Doyle is definitely in play, and I'll have some exposure to him.
Doyle rules. 61% the snaps last week. The week before, 73%. That's compared to Mo Alley Cox, 45% and 48%. So, look, he's on the field more. Now, he's not getting the opportunities, but last week he ran 6 routes compared to Mo Alley Cox's 8 routes. The week before, they both ran 14 routes. So they're both getting the same amount of opportunities. For whatever reason, Mo Alley Cox is getting the targets. And at a $4,600 difference, I can't justify it. I can't go with Mo Alley Cox too much. All right, let's go to the other side here. We're going to speed this up.
While you're pulling it up, I don't even feel much better about this side. I'm not paying $4,800 for Ross Dwelly. Yeah. I get that he's going to be in the offense, but it's just too expensive for me. I mean, Charlie Warner, I actually don't mind at $400. But Ross Dwelly, it's just way too expensive for me at $4,800.
1 target, week 4, 2, and he did have a touchdown, so we got to bring that up against Seattle. But week 5, 2 targets, 25 yards. I think, at 4,800, this dude should be like 2,000. He should be like $2,000. I'm not paying 4,800 for him. I'd rather go with Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah, I would actually pay for Mo Alley Cox in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so kickers. So do we like kickers this week because of the rain potentially and because of the low total? Do we care? 4,200 for Badgley. Joey Sly's 4,400. These kickers keep getting more expensive. Like 2-3 weeks ago, everyone was like 3,200, 3,400. So where do we go here? And defense versus position, what is that? What the hell? Why is that even there? Third against kickers? Okay, that makes sense. I don't know. Just be with the field, right? These guys both are going to be around 20%. Maybe I'm going to be 10% or 15%.
I'll be under the field. Like, there's just no reason. I mean, at 4,400, I'd rather just play a $200 punt.
I totally agree. So defense. 49ers are 3,200. Colts 3,600. I think you can go with the Colts here a little bit.
I think you can go with both. That's a little too low for either of these, especially considering the weather and the total. Yeah, I think both are in play. 49ers at 3,200. Like, let's not pretend like Carson Wentz is having a revitalized career. No, he absolutely can go off for 400 yards and 2, 3, 4 touchdowns. Yeah. But he could also go out there, break his leg, and fumble 4 times on one play. So let's not pretend that the 49ers have a shitty defensive line and aren't going to get pressure on them. At 3,200, like I might actually have more of these defenses than I will of kickers.
I agree.
Right, just play them instead of the kickers.
Yeah, their ownership probably a little bit lower.
Now, just as a side note, we will not have more than 15% of either defense, and probably 15% of both defenses total.
And if the Colts get 2 interceptions for a touchdown, it is what it is. I'm not going to risk it. You need.
Yeah, I'm not playing them at captain anyways. If they're doing that, they'll be the optimal captain. Some dude's going to solo ship. So
this game could be a 3-0 final score. And if there's no sacks, there's no fumbles, there's no interceptions, there's no defensive touchdowns, the defenses will not pay off still.
Bro, the Mavericks, I know we're trying to stay on topic, but the Mavericks just fucking tied the Raptors somehow.
Really? Jason Kidd is coaching? Back. Wow.
Dude, I can't believe they're just gonna waste Luka's career like this. Like, you just brought in Jason Kidd. Like, there's plenty of people. It's like Eric Bieniemy for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, if Cliff Kingsbury didn't have the season that he's having, like, you fire him immediately and you offer every goddamn dollar that you have to try and bring in Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
The fact that he's not a head coach somewhere is crazy.
He will be next year. He will be. All right. So fades. Are you more likely to fade Wentz? What do you think?
Probably leaning more towards Jimmy G when we're talking about fading, and then just the entire backfield for San Francisco, unless I'm specifically fading Jimmy G.
I think I'm more likely to not really go out of my way to fade anybody, but I think I'm going to try to prioritize potentially, depending on where the weather goes. If we start to see it clear up a little bit, I might have a different opinion, but I think I'm going to try to go like one quarterback per lineup. Yeah. I think I'm just going to, I don't know if I'll make a rule for that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I might hand build. I might not. We'll see. All right. So, Captain.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
We're crowning their ass. This is going to be interesting because not a lot of people are going to go this way. Jonathan Taylor for me, Michael Pittman Jr. for you. The main reason we're doing this is looking at projected ownership. These guys are going to potentially be like the 5th or 6th highest owned captain, right?
Right. It's obvious. Everybody's got a hard on for Kyle Shanahan and the Niners. I mean, even I did before I started looking at captain ownership projections. And Debo's the obvious choice, but I definitely think there's a lot of leverage to be gained, especially if Jonathan Taylor is not going to be a top captain option. He is one of the better players on the field, and he's going to get a lot of run. And then Michael Pittman Jr., he could end up with 25 targets. You don't know what T.Y. and Paris Campbell being out, what he's going to do on the offense. So I think both these guys are just in prime positions to smash.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, even if 49ers are ahead in this game, there's still a great opportunity for both of these guys. You can get garbage points from both. They're not going to pull Taylor because they're losing. This isn't like
right, and we see that he's going to get screen dump offs, right? And he's going to score 75-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, we see it. And look, Jonathan Taylor next year. I know we're looking ahead, but next year when we're going to best ball, next year when we're going to regular fantasy drafts, he's going to be a top 3 pick, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I really think so. He's a top. Yeah, I doubted him a little bit earlier this year. I'm not doubting him anymore. He's amazing. All right, so let's build a lineup. So let's look at the canned opto. What is it? 24 hours before the game tomorrow. Debo, captain, no surprise. Sanu, 49ers, Elijah Mitchell, Wentz, and Garoppolo. This is a 5-1. This is why if you do a 3-3 or a 4-2 Colts, you're gonna have major leverage. And yeah, maybe the Colts don't get there, but I really think that playing more Colts this week is really going to get you there, and you still have the upside of San Francisco as long as you pick those players right. 5-1. I mean, come on, give me. I'm not going there. I'm not going there, right?
Right. No, absolutely not. We talked about it earlier at the top of the show, right? 3-3 and 4-2 Indy. I think it's the way to go here. So, all right, I think let's start with your guy, bro. Let's start with Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas coming in. Let's go. Where's he at? There he is. He's the highest price guy on the slate too. That's also going to hurt. That's also going to hurt his ownership, which I love.
You know what? Let's throw in Anubis or whatever that wide receivers guy was.
Doolin. All right. So are we fading Jimmy G here? Or are we going with Wentz?
I think we're fading Jimmy G, man. Let's go Wentz, and then let's throw in Debo and Elijah Mitchell, and let's just see where we're at. Because we're going to be nice off.
Yeah.
We can get in, what's his name? We can get in the other, who do we got?
We got Ross Dwelly or Joey Slot. Yeah, we're of course, this is always how we roll. We end up right where the kickers. Always, our final position is always the kickers. But you get
all right, what about this? Who do we like at Stanford? I'm not playing. Dude, I can't do that. Yeah. I just can't. Yeah, I can't. I absolutely. So what if we take Elijah Mitchell out and throw in, who else do we have at San Francisco that we're willing to play here?
So Sanu.
And it really drops off.
So you can go Sanu.
Yeah.
10.7K. So that we can always go Jimmy G here.
Yeah, then you don't have to play Jimmy G.
I don't hate this. I don't hate this at all.
Yeah.
This is solid. You got Sanu. You got Doolin. No one in their fucking right mind, except us, would ever put Doolin and Sanu in the same line.
Sanu in the same lineup. But to be fair, dude, I don't hate this. This isn't terrible. And even if you aren't comfortable with this, you can. So for shits and giggles, let's come off of Sanu and Jimmy G. Let's put in Dwelly.
Okay.
Because he's going to be on the field, right? He's going to have opportunities. I don't like his price tag, but we're going to have to play him. That's Elijah Mitchell. Yeah. And so we're right back to where we started. Mitchell. But again, 3-3, this isn't terrible. So to your point, right? Playing Ross Dwelly he's going to be under 10% owned at that price tag.
Yeah.
So it's not awful. You're getting all the offense in Debo and Elijah. And your punt at Anubis or Ashley Doolin, whatever his name is.
Anubis Doolin. All right, let's remix this a little bit. So let's try to get Wentz. Let's try to get Michael Pittman Jr. And let's throw in a $200 guy here. So what were we thinking? Sherfield, Coutier, maybe. Kiki.
Let's go. Let's go Kiki just for our 4-2.
Yeah. So let's try to find two San Fran guys. So we got 14-3 for 2 spots. We're in a good spot. So where do we go?
We should be able to do Debo
and 4,700. Just under Dwelly, but Kyle Juszczyk. You can go down to JaMychal Hasty. Leave a little bit on the table. I don't know if I love where I'm at here. I don't know if I love this. I'd rather go with a $200 or $8. I'd rather just go up to Jack Doyle or something from Coutier. Let's see what that gets us. Jack Doyle, Debo. That's 3,900. That gets us defenses or Sanu or JaMychal Hasty. I don't hate it. I don't hate either of those.
Put in Colts defense.
Colts defense. 5-1.
Well, look, man. I'm not gonna lie. This is fucked up, but this isn't a terrible build. Debo could easily be the highest scorer for the San Francisco 49ers, and this is a crazy lineup.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't think anybody and their brother would ever play that. All right, so let's go a little bit. Let's go with Michael Pittman, and then I want to go a little bit more chalky with San Francisco with maybe a 4-2 with them. Okay. And then we'll call the show. We're already over our time, but it's all right.
So let's go. So let's do a 2-4 actually. So run in Michael Pittman and Carson Wentz.
Okay.
And throw in Debo, Jimmy G.
Debo.
And then let's go Dwelly and Sherfield. That's gonna fit nicely, isn't it?
1,600. Yeah.
You can even go Doyle. 1,600, you can pretty much...
You could do Mack, you can go Doyle, you can go Doolin, you can go anybody.
Yeah, Marlon Mack, yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah, so Sherfield for your 4-2, but if you want a 3-3, you can go Marlon Mack or Doyle. It's not
what happens if we go Sherfield and come off Dwelly?
Dwelly, let's go to Sherfield. All right, that's 6,200. Pascal, or Naheem Hines, or Mo Alley Cox, or Ross Dwelly. You got a lot of options there.
I love that one right there with Pascal. This isn't a terrible lineup, man.
Yeah, I like it. You got all the pass catching here. Now we are leaving out Jonathan Taylor Thomas, which does worry me quite a bit. But you could pull Wentz, put Jonathan Taylor Thomas in, and then go with instead of Pascal or Short. Let's do it. Let's put Jonathan Taylor in. Pull Sherfield. Let's do more of a running game here for the Colts.
Jonathan Taylor, is a perfect time to do it.
Let's do.
Throw in Jack Doyle.
Let's do. Hang on a second. Where the hell's Marlon?
Okay. Oh yeah. There we go.
4,200. So Bagley, Juszczyk, or defenses. Juszczyk, I don't hate it. I just don't like his salary. But if you're going to go all the way down to JaMychal Hasty, the salary just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much he costs, So, hey, play with it. I actually really like the way some of these builds are turning out here. You know what I mean? I think it'll be fun. I think this will be interesting. I wasn't super excited, but now that we've built some, I think it'll be pretty damn interesting. So, anything to think about when people are building tomorrow? Anything that you're going to take into account? Are you setting any rules? What are you going to do?
No, man. So for Showdown, I just hand build primarily. I just use the optimizer to give me like what I lock in my players and just build every single type of lineup that there is and choose who I like. But for tomorrow, I think it's a good opportunity to go against the public. I think it's obvious that the San Francisco 49ers are a bit more overrated than people should expect them to be. So I think you can fade them and play the Colts.
I agree. I think the Colts can win this. I think 27-24 potentially. Yeah. Colts. They should have won that Baltimore game realistically. I'm
going to go 23-19 Colts.
23-19 Colts. All right. Who's our low owned guy that can score this week in your opinion?
Marlon Mack.
I think Doolin can be that guy. Doolin, Mack, or Doyle. Either one. Now I'm just throwing out everybody's name.
All of them. All of the low owned guys can score this week.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We're at about 51 minutes. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you for what's the Monday night game? I haven't even looked yet. Hang on.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh, New Orleans and Seattle. I think New Orleans is really.
Bro, when can they start flexing games?
Dude,
like I know it's not Monday night, but it just start flexing. With the Sunday night flex. Remember in 2015, the Cardinals got flexed like 7 times.
Yeah.
When does that start? Like you can't flex this bullshit game out of this.
I don't
know how many people would have watched that Cardinals game on the Cardinals Browns, Cardinals Rams?
Yeah.
Like. All right.
Hey, Cardinals versus the Packers on Thursday night. I'm looking forward to that too, man. That's gonna be like a 4-hour show. We're just gonna be shooting the shit for 4 hours.
Back in 1999, when the first Bidwill drafted. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
No!
All right. See you guys later.